This is Greg Troutwine with Marine Technology TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Dawn Massa-Stancavish, the president and CEO and third generation leader of Massa Products, to discuss not only the company's 75-year history, but also its bright future. Dawn, first and foremost, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay. Well, Dawn, I know for this audience that Massa Products needs no introduction, but to start us off, can you give a by the numbers look at Massa Products today using the metrics of your choice?
Yeah, sure. It's been interesting for our business because we have the marine sector as well as an industrial sector. And we also have the military work that we do for government contracts. And all of those sectors have grown over the last 3 years. And during COVID too, we also grew in size. So we were a much smaller company a few years back, and we've grown substantially for us. And it's just been really exciting because we're still on that growth path.
Obviously, this is a family business, but when did you first realize that your career would be in the family business that was started by your grandfather, Frank Massa, in 1945?
When I was younger, I actually went different directions, and I had a misconception that to be in this family business, you had to be an engineer. When I was in college, I started to feel that maybe I should look a little more closely at engineering. I did take some engineering classes, but I found that that really isn't my natural calling. I can do it. It takes a lot of work. I understand it. But I always liked the idea of being a part of this family business, because the family business to me has always been like another family member itself. I wasn't clear on exactly how I would be a part of it until I was older. And I ended up getting a master's degree in psychology, which is great for business. I had other business experience. I went out into the world. I did other things. But as a family business, I was brought in at the board level. And it was through the board meetings I realized how my talents and my abilities were aligned with our company. So I guess the answer is I always wanted to do something important. I always wanted to make sure that this company did well. But how I fit into it was discovered later on. So I think what's important for other young women out there and anybody starting in a career field is that, I spoke a little bit about our business and how you can have fun in business when we were speaking before. And I think that if you are doing something that is challenging in a good way, keeps your mind going, and you enjoy, that's what's really important. So I found that with my family business, and finding how my unique skills and talent can fit in to grow it in ways that it hasn't grown in decades has been very satisfying and fun for me.
Looking at the legacy leaders of your company, your grandfather, Frank, and your father, Don, what are the management traits that are similar through the 3 generations? And how does your management style and philosophy differ from your predecessors?
That's a really interesting question, because my dad and my grandfather were very, very technical, but they both also understood how to communicate to people that aren't technical. I was able to pick up that because they always brought me into the conversations, even at a young age. So I learned a lot about how things work and how to explain something that's a little bit more complicated to somebody who might not have that type of background. And even when you have people who have that background, sometimes there's a little bit of a communication issue because they might be coming at it technically from a different type of technical background. So still being able to explain things on this even playing field is very important. So I learned how to listen to how they do that. And if I notice that there's someone who might not be understanding, I'm able to jump in quite naturally and help with the translation of what was was said so that everyone's able to listen. I learned from them how important it is to be clear in your communication. And that is something that I definitely use when I'm speaking with customers, as well as when I'm speaking with employees. But the other piece was that it's a family business. So I know that means, that term itself means different things to different people. But what it means here is that, everyone who's employed here is a person to us. It's not just a job, not just a title, not just a number. And we care a lot about making sure that everyone is feeling satisfaction from their job, and they understand how important each job here is, because we are a certified small business. So what that means is that everyone does lots of different things, and everything that they do is really important for the big picture. So communicating that through everybody internally, that is something that was important to both my father and my grandfather as well. But I think I do it a little bit differently. I just have a different nature. Because I'm not an engineer, I don't get caught up in the technical details as much as they did. I'm able to address the big picture a little bit more with everybody. I guess that's an area where it's different. They were very technical leaders, where I'm more of a holistic leader. But it's been really good to focus and communicate with the different managers, with different customers, how we can possibly apply what we do to be more aligned with the goals of what the customer might have and the goals of the company, and how each role within the company fits the bigger picture. So that's been something that I've been doing. The other piece that is really important here at Massa that I've embraced fully, it's kind of like a founder's mentality. Innovation is critical to who we are, especially in this business. A lot of businesses that do sonar in the ocean for commercial, sonar for government, don't do the ultrasonics for air. And a lot of our competitors that do the ultrasonics in air don't have the underwater experience and longevity that we have, or capability. So embracing all of that and embracing the science of sound itself has been very important, because a lot of people focus more on the electronic side or the signal processing, where we focus on the design and the construction of the transducers. We also do the software and signal processing to different degrees and different applications, but understanding not just what the application is and what the desired results are, to design the actual transducer to be able to achieve those results and minimize the need for extra expensive or overly complicated electronics and software has been a key niche that we focus on. So we have a design system for new products that is really from transducer through electronics through software, designed to do what the customer really wants. And by focusing on that type of innovation, we've been able to expand the field from a technological standpoint of where electroacoustics can go and how they can be applied. And we've found that we've been able to go into markets that typically don't see this type of technology. They rely on other technologies. So it's been very exciting to advance the field and have that be part of our vision, where, I haven't run into a whole lot of other companies that have focused on the electroacoustics themselves and the science of sound itself to advance the products. And the fact that we design, engineer, and manufacture all here, we're not focused just on the innovation itself, but also how to make it so it's mass producible.
Obviously, when you look around, being a female, a woman leading a high-tech company is the exception rather than the norm today. When you look at it or consider it, are there any particular advantages or disadvantages to being a woman leading a high-tech company in this space?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I've enjoyed over the last few months meeting a lot of other women the military side, actually. I've been going to various conferences and things, and there's a huge movement to have more women in leadership. But what I've found is the pioneers of that movement, it's really merit-based. Everyone earned their place. And I would hope that it continues along that path, where, women are considered, but they're not given a job just because they're women. It's important that every job is considered based on qualifications and capability, and merit. So otherwise, all the fighting that all these women had to do is really for nothing if it just ends up flipping the other direction. So there's a lot of really impressive women out in the military and in technical fields today that are just now being recognized. And many of them are far more great than I am, because I'm not technical. I'm here in the business side, and it's been interesting going to different shows, because sometimes I'm received in different ways. I've been in groups where I've been with male colleagues, and sometimes people automatically start speaking to the men instead of to me. I did have one guy at one of the trade shows say something really that sounded like, geez, what era are you from? Because when I introduced myself as being third generation of this business, and that we're, a technical business, he said to me, geez, you must be disappointed. And I'm looking at him like, what, are you crazy? I'm very proud of my business. This is a wonderful thing that I have here. And he said, geez, no, you could have been a dressmaker or something like that. I bet you're really upset. And I was like, oh my God, you just missed an opportunity to do business with us. I think we're going to go talk to somebody else now. I didn't say that, but that's kind of what was going through my head. So I'm sure there's countless stories like that other women have encountered. But most of all, I've found that it doesn't stand in the way of something that's important or worthwhile. It helps sometimes. There have been situations where I've been underestimated, but that's also worked to my advantage. There have been times where it's just been normal, and that's the best. And I'd say that's most of the dealings I've had. But it's exciting to be able to be third generation here in a technical field, being the granddaughter that took it over. And especially since there was an idea in our family that I even had when I was younger, that you had to be an engineer to do this, and you really don't. And we need engineers to do what we do, but all we really need for the leadership is to fully understand that and embrace it and know what's important, know who has what capability, and have that trust in the team so that the business can develop and grow along the lines of the vision and the mission of the business.
So Dawn, as a pioneering ultrasonic and sonar technology company, it's quite an achievement to celebrate 75 years, and in fact now pass it by 2 years, your 75th anniversary. But something else that makes Massa unique is the fact that you design, engineer, and manufacture the solutions that you sell. Would you mind walking us through the process by which your products and systems are created cradle to grave?
Each customer is handled slightly differently. We do have off-the-shelf products, and we have government contracts, and we have new developments. And our new developments are sometimes soup to nuts, sometimes they're modifications to existing designs. One of the benefits that we have is that our technology actually predates our company, being that my grandfather was involved in the early days of electroacoustics from when he graduated MIT in the late 20s. He went to work at Victor Talking Machine, which became RCA, Victor, and then RCA, and then he grew up, he ended up becoming head of government sound there and got involved with government stuff. And then he went out to brush development after doing lots of different patents and designs. And he was involved with all of the design and construction of the sonar used in World War II. So he took all of that knowledge with him when he founded our company. And he trained all his people with the idea of design through production. So whether it's a government job or a commercial job, everything is thought of not just will it work, but how do we make it affordable and quality through production. And being that we're one facility, we have a strong engineering department with different types of engineers. And we have production engineers that work with the design engineers and the production line. And we have a full-blown production line here too. And we have QCL in-house. So everything from design through products is monitored by top people, and making sure that we get through the prototype design, rule out all the kinks, and then we make it more affordable without losing quality for mass production. So we do that for all of our products, but the degree to which we innovate is dependent on the customer and the job at hand.
So Dawn, I know that you have a long and strong history serving the U.S. Navy, but Massa is more than just a military supplier. Can you give us a breakdown of the many markets that you serve, including, if I've read correctly, bowling score systems?
Yes, we have done a lot of different things over our history. Like I said, my grandfather became known in the field during World War II, but he was known in electroacoustics before that. He actually started in audio sound when it was Victor Talking Machine. And over the years, from our beginning until today, we have over 165 US patents. And we're adding to that number. So we have some new developments that are under mutual non-disclosure agreements with commercial partners. And those are very exciting things that we've been working on that we can't wait to launch. And they'll be co-branded. That's been our ongoing new to the world type products, is that we've been partnering with customers that, don't compete with us technology wise, but need a solution. And they work with us with their needs, and we create something that fits their needs. And they're either featuring our name because they came to us for this design, or sometimes it's something that's a co-branded thing that we're putting out together. And we've done everything over our history, from innovations for the military to the bowling scoring systems for AMF. My father actually designed that with some of our engineers that we still have with us today. He did that in the late 70s, early 80s. But what's amazing about that is we manufactured thousands of those systems. And before that is when the bowling leagues had to have a pin counter, like an actual person would count the pins. And count whether there was a strike or not. And AMF wanted to speed up that whole process so that there was an automatic bowling scoring system. And we used air ultrasonics to do it. So it was a whole system where it spotted the pins, counted them, gave the score. And it took some time to develop it because it was a unique new thing, but it worked so well, and it sped up their leagues, the bowling leagues that they had going through there. They were able to service more leagues in a shorter period of time because of the speeding up the scoring. And then we produced so many of them that they were still out in the field. We found out like recently that some of the older places still have them. They're still working, which blew our mind, because a lot of that industry no longer uses our systems. They've changed to use something else, but there was nothing before that was introduced and created here. And it was actually kind of funny because I was a little girl when that was happening. And I came in and I saw the engineers bowling, because we made a small half lane, and it was like they were testing it. And I was looking around like, I thought you were working, Dad. Can I have my birthday party here? So it was really funny to see them doing that. But what I learned from that as a little kid was that this is a fun place to work. You can grow up and you can do fun things. You can create amazing solutions and new products that make people happy. I mean, there's this whole idea about business being so serious or just about gaining a profit, and all those things are important, but fun is important too, because if you don't like what you're doing and you're not having fun with advancing something, it's really not worth very much. Employees here have to have fun doing what they're doing, to like their job and to do a good job. And, executive management certainly has fun. So, I feel that with every design, everyone here, whether it's in the design process to the customer service end of it to the production line, people feel that what they're doing is important and people are enjoying creating solutions for customers. And, we've done it in so many different areas. In the bowling scoring thing, that wasn't something that we went out and said, let's use our technology to score bowling. They came to us with a problem and we were able to say, hey, let's see what we can do to solve that problem. And that's been something that we've been doing again a lot lately. We've been communicating that if you have an issue and technologies out there aren't satisfying your needs, come talk to us, because maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but we'll be able to assess the problem and let you know if it's feasible, and we'll make a prototype and see if it happens.
But can you give us an overview of what Massa Products is working on today and what the market can expect to see in the coming 12 to 24 months?
Yes. What I can say is that we're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with our technology. So we're creating some new designs for use in water, for use in air, and in new applications where our technology just isn't seen. So over the next 10 to 20 years, it's my goal to continue to grow the markets where our technology is possible and considered, because right now there's some few known spaces that everybody's in, but we've been learning a lot about some other spaces, and about the existing spaces, we've been learning how we could do even more in those spaces. We look at what's out in the world and say, okay, what else can we do? Is there something more there? Or how are these things working, and how can we do better? And is it worth it to do better here, or should we go look somewhere else? So we've been thinking of things a little bit differently, and we have the longevity and the experience technically to fall back on designs that we've done over the years. Because some of the things we found that we did, even 50 years ago were ahead of its time. So to be able to go back and revisit some of the older things that we started that might not have gone all the way through production, we've been finding that some of those things are applicable today.
Dawn, obviously the last 2 years have been interesting, if you want to put the word interesting on COVID, and your ascension to the leadership at Massa Products coincided with the COVID pandemic. So how did this business and societal disruption event impact your company and your business?
Yeah, so I was the chief operating officer. I've always been the chief innovation officer for the last few years, but I was at the time the chief operating officer also. And when COVID hit, I remember we actually it was 2 years ago. Yesterday was the first day that my kids were told, it was Friday the 13th, that they're not coming back to school. And everyone here was in that state of panic and uncertainty. Like, what does this mean? The governor was giving his announcements as to what businesses had to shut down and what didn't. And we were fortunate enough with the government business that we were essential. We're actually essential both from what we do for defense, as well as the fact that we're a manufacturer. So we were able to stay open. It was really important in my mind that I did everything I could to keep people here in person. So I immediately looked at how fast can I provide people with masks, gloves, cleaning supplies, sanitizer, so that they could clean their workspace as well as their hands, as well as space people out. And we were fortunate enough that our production lines were set up in a way that we could move people out. So we spaced people. We had production in person the entire time without stopping. For the other areas, most of the engineers were here full time without stopping. Some of the engineer managers and some of the executives were hybrid. There were only a handful of people that had to go totally remote, and that was due to medical concerns, which were justified. So we immediately looked at what do we need to do to make this work, to keep people safe, and to be within the law. So I was reflecting against my attorney on a regular basis. I was looking into what we can do for policy, how can I update things on a regular basis, and it took a lot of time and energy to make sure that we're doing things properly, and we did. We had everybody return to the office with the exception of just a couple people September 2020 full-time. So like we got rid of the hybrid, taking turns in the office September 2020. To date, we have had 0 on-site transmissions of COVID. So we were open in person and totally successful that whole time. Last August was when we were reviewing it at the board. Not only did we keep everybody healthy and safe and we stayed open and we stayed in person, we were able to meet the needs of our contracts. We were able to keep supplying our commercial customers, and we were able to grow the business in a period when a lot of businesses in Massachusetts had failed. A lot of Fortune 500 companies had filed for bankruptcy, and the board of directors was just reviewing everything. And that's when my dad said, she's been handling this totally on her own, which is true. He was handling the engineering and I had taken over all of the business, and it had been 3 years for me doing all of the business management. And he said, you know what, I think I'd like to step down, because he's older too. He's still doing the technical stuff. He's our CTO. He's like, she's better at the business stuff than me. I'd like to nominate her for president. And the board was impressed with what had happened over the COVID in particular, because we outperformed so many businesses in terms of health, safety, being open and meeting deadlines. And we also grew. So it's a recent appointment to president this past August, but it was meaningful to me.
I mean, again, it seems almost surreal. It was 2 years ago, and I remember it distinctly as well. And our business was basically made to be kind of like remote, because I used to travel like all the time anyway. Like I'm going to start again relatively soon, but I remember like 2 years ago, my oldest son's 25. He lives in Nashville. We always, ever since he was young, we always went to games somewhere. So I had gotten him NCAA basketball tickets, because that's been on our list forever. So finally, this week I'm actually meeting him in Portland, Oregon, and we always wanted to go to the full first round of everything. So it's mind-numbing. And again, to your point, I mean, there are so many business leaders that I interview, from the leaders of the biggest container shipping companies in the world to everything in between. Nobody had a clue. Nobody had an inkling of what was going to come down. So it's again, a testament to you, to your leadership, to your clients. That's an amazing story. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it was important to me that I was able to supply the employees with stuff instead of trying to leave it on them to get it. And that was appreciated. And it started out with people being kind of concerned and confused about what's going to happen and should they stay, should we be open? And then, I explained all that to them at the beginning, and I was actually concerned that if we shut down, what would it mean to reopen? Would we be locked down? And I didn't want to risk that. Plus, for national defense, I felt that it was very important. I mean, if the whole country shut down, You want to make sure that you're protecting your shorelines. So
Well, that message rings closer to home than it ever has in the last 2 weeks, I got to tell you. So it's
yes, that's totally true.
like totally bizarre. So anyway, I appreciate your time again, Dawn. I truly appreciate your time. I just had one last question. Looking at your company's long history, can you share insights on one product, one job, one application that really stands out that you think shows the depth and the breadth of Massa Products capabilities?
See, I really don't think that there's just one, but I can share some extremes. For a small company, we were featured in Time Magazine not once, but twice. One was for a military achievement. Actually, they were both military applications, but one was the world's largest transducer that was ever built. And we were able to build that one. We had a new innovative design. Military went with a larger company that knew instead of us. We didn't think their design was going to work, so we went ahead and made a prototype anyway. When the competitor's product failed, they were stuck with this huge ship that that had a hole to lower the sonar into the ocean, and the ship powered it. This was Mission Capistrano, Project Artemis, and this was in the 60s. But when it failed, they looked at our prototype that we made on our own IRAD, and they looked at the drawings and they said, geez, maybe this will work. So they called us back up. We negotiated the contract. They couldn't get it to us fast enough, so they sent it to us through Columbia University because they were doing IR&D with them too. And we had to redesign it to fit in the hole that went down through the ship. So we were able to redesign and produce the world's largest transducer, where like a human was this tall and the transducer was up to here. We did it within a year, and we put an addition onto the building to build it. That's what landed us in Time Magazine, because we achieved literally the impossible, and we did it well, and it succeeded. That is such an important story for our business, even though it happened a long time ago, because that's what we still do today. If there is a need to do something well, do it right, apply our technology in a way that others might not be able to, we will do it if there's enough of a need to do it, and we can do it fast. And if we're sure of what the application is and what the solution is, we'll do it on our own to prove it, and then negotiate. So that's one thing. The other time we were in Time was we made a lobster robot with it was with Owen. I think it was with ONR. Yeah, it was with ONR and Northeastern University, and Time called it the coolest invention in 2003. It was designed to find shallow water mines. And there's a whole story along with that, but I don't want to get into that. But it was based on the American lobster and biomimetics, so that it wouldn't get knocked around in the tidal zone. The pressure of the waves actually stabilized it. So we used that with sonar. It could swim, it could walk, and it would detect these shallow water mines and be able to save human lives and to deactivate them. So that was another cool thing. As far as industry, we already talked about the bowling alley, but there's also other things that we're doing. And it's the same philosophies as with the Artemis story, and with the lobster story, and with the bowling alley story, is that if there is something out there that we can create, other products are just not achieving the desired results, or you might need multiple products to achieve something, or it might be too costly. We can just, listen to what the problem is, see if it makes sense. And if there's enough of a business case for us to go for it, we can usually find a solution that's more affordable to our customer.
Well, Dawn, again, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a pleasure learning more about Massa Products, and I look forward to our follow-up interview on your 150th anniversary.
Thank you.